Hello, I'm Dr. Maury Markman from City of Hope. I want to briefly discuss in this final segment the sort of unique aspects of precision cancer medicine, theoretical questions that come up. And there are so many questions that one might ask. Over the coming years, there are going to be many of these that will hopefully be addressed and perhaps either theoretically answered with various hypotheses or definitive answers be given. But one that obviously comes to mind is a very straightforward one. Why is it over so many generations that BRCA mutations, which of course, as we know, are relevant in breast cancer and ovarian cancer, prostate and pancreas cancer, why is it that that mutation persists in the population? Is there some biological, evolutionary reason why this clearly detrimental gene from the perspective of gene abnormality, from the perspective of these cancers, persists in the population? Is there some evolutionary advantage that can be ascribed to the presence of mutation in BRCA that might be used or explain the persistence of this abnormality? Now, clearly, what I'm just referring to is hypothetical. There's no way we can know for sure, but are there data available that we can look to that might explain evolutionary advantage for the presence of this abnormality? Now, clearly, one must recognize, and one does recognize, that from the perspective of evolutionary advantage, we are obviously talking about a period of time where a woman, because we're talking about these BRCA genes in particular, we're talking about reproductive era, when that reproductive time would occur, which is obviously in general within period of time into the 20s, perhaps into the 30s from an evolutionary perspective, years of age. So that cancer develops in someone's 40, 50, or 60 is not going to have a major evolutionary impact. Obviously, there are some exceptions to that. Certainly when you talk about the fact that you want to have parents, grandparents to raise children, all true. But the major driver is going to be that reproductive years, which is not going to be relevant to a major extent, as I noted, development of cancer. Still, that doesn't answer the question, why would that gene potentially have an advantage? Well, an interesting hypothesis has been raised by investigators that looked at the Utah population database. Very interesting study, reported a number of years ago, which suggested that women with a BRCA mutation, BRCA1 or BRCA2 abnormalities, had a higher rate of fertility. This is obviously historical over a long period of time, but the presence of the gene abnormality gave that woman ultimately a greater number of children. So there was potentially a fertility advantage associated with the gene abnormality. Interestingly, and consistent with this, with the onset of contraception, that advantage, as seen in this database, did not completely go away, but it was less. Again, hypothesis that even though that gene had a negative effect from the point of view of cancer, it had a positive effect on the perspective of fertility, more children, keeping the gene present in the population. Very interesting hypothesis. I'm sure we're going to see many other questions that are going to be addressed by this type of analyses in the future. Very interesting era, and I thank you for your attention.